Hello creative friends. So today I decided to make ATC cards, and I have these cards that I got Tuesday morning, and then these I got from Oriental Trading that are already kind of decorated that I decided to use to make the cards. And here I'm showing you Tuesday morning. I got these on sale. And so these ones that I got from Tuesday morning, I decided I wanted to round the corners on those. The ones from the Oriental Trading that are already decorated already have the rounded corners, and so I don't need to do those. But I decided I would just do like two from each card type. So two from the black card, two from the craft card, and two from the white card. And I noticed from the white card that they were really slick, and which I like that, but I wasn't sure if both of the packs that I got were the same. Like one was like more matte and the other gloss, but they looked like they were both the same. So I just decided to keep two out of that. And then I chose two out of the pack from Oriental Trading to decorate. So here I have my two cards from each card pack that I'm going to use to decorate. So I decided to start with the ones that were already decorated, and these are kind of nice because you don't have to really think a whole lot about the background. You just go straight in with creating a card. So I grabbed some ephemera from my stash, and I got this little stamp that I've had for a while, and I really like it, and I thought, well, stamp that on there. And then this little flower filigree from a Tim Holtz paper pack that I had, but I decided I wanted to cut it up. I didn't really want to put it on there like it was, and of course that's the nice thing, about these the ephemera, these cutouts or whatever. You can cut them up and do what you don't want. Make them work for you. So I decided I want a little bit at the top and a little bit at the bottom. So I'm gluing all this on with Aleene's tacky glue, and pretty much I think that that's pretty hard. So I decided that I wanted to add some of these liquid beads, I guess they're called, onto the card just to add a little bit of shine and shimmer because these things are kind of glittery. And I wanted to do some pink ones and some green ones, and so that's what I'm doing here, just adding a little bit of extra shine and shimmer to the card. And I smeared that one a little bit, and then I set that aside to dry. So I'm happy with that, and I think it turned out really pretty. And so then the next card here that I decided to do, I decided I was going to get a image out of my journal where I've gone through and stamped all of my stamps into, and then I've even colored some of these images that are in this journal. So I decided to do the butterfly and a flower on this particular card. So I go around and I kind of fussy cut out, or not a butterfly, this is a dragonfly. So I go around and I fussy cut out this dragonfly from the paper that I stamped it on. I had stamped this previously, as you saw, or as I mentioned. I went through all of my stamps and just stamped all of my stamps into a journal, and that's an idea I got from Dinah Wakely to do that. And then I went back in and colored some of the images, and I just used like a watercolor brush pen to color this dragonfly. And so, yeah, I take the time, and I don't really particularly care for fussy cutting. Usually when I cut out, I leave like a little bit of a border around it, but I really wanted to get him, and the flower cut out, to put on this card. So I did take the time to go around his little legs. I mean, I could have potentially cut the legs off and then stamped them onto the card, but I did take the time to, go ahead and cut out his little legs. Now the flower, I wasn't as careful. I did kind of like get as close, but it wasn't perfect, and I didn't really care because I figured when I colored this, it was going to be covered up anyway, so I didn't go through the whole thing on that one. I figured I'd skip ahead. So I just grabbed markers. These are Arteza markers I got recently and decided just to color it. And I figured, if it wasn't perfect, you're not going to be able to tell because, I'll have the whole thing colored anyway. So I decided to take a darker one to add some shadows so that at least it looks kind of somewhat 3D and go along where I would, where it would seem like that petals were overlapping other petals. And then I decided to put yellow on the inside and then get a darker yellow to again add like a little bit of a shadow around the bottom there just to make it look a little nicer. And then when I put it down on my paper, I noticed, oh, that was another one. Here I used Aleene's tacky glue to glue this down onto the card and the dragonfly to glue down on the card. There's another card I did later on where you'll see I didn't color it around the edges as well as I should have, and I had to go back over it, but the edges. But anyway, so I glued down the flower and the dragonfly on this card, and then I got out some Winka Stella pens to put glitter on the wings, to glitter them up, to make them look really pretty and shiny. And then I decided to add a couple of little dots and embellishments to this one. But first I felt like that the dragonfly was getting lost on this card, so I decided to go around everything with this gray pen, but that wasn't really working as well as I wanted it to, so I got a darker gray pen to go around the dragonfly and the flower so that he would stand out better. So that's what I'm doing here, is going around with a dark gray pen to add some shadow and help him stand out better. And then, like I said, I decided to add a few little dots to him, but I guess I did that a little bit later. You'll see that towards the end. Some of these, I think there's two of them I didn't add any little dots to, but then at the end when I go through kind of showing you all of them together, I decided to add dots to them. So here I'm just taking an ink pad and inking this up, and then I take a darker brown with this stamp and decided to stamp that onto the card, and that way I have a really nice little background here for the next one. So then I decide what I'm going to put on this, and I went through a couple of different variations and then decided that I like this one the best. So I glued this down onto the card, glued down my little butterfly. And again, I used Aleene's tacky glue for all these because these cutouts are on some pretty heavy cardstock, so they can take the heavier glue. And then clipped off the bottom. And I put that aside and just called that done for now. But again, later on I do add a little bit more to it. So here, since the paper was kind of slick and glossy, I decided to just add some alcohol inks to it. And this, I don't know what they call these things, the pad to just gumble it up a little bit and cover this whole card. And this actually dries fairly quickly. I knew since it had kind of a glossy finish, I would be able to do this. Hit it for a second with a heat gun to make sure that it's dry. I wanted to use these little people on here, or at least on some of the cards, but I'm trying to figure out like what would be the best option for this card. I kind of like that flower with the butterfly, but I continue to kind of search through to see what my other options were to put on this card. And I do end up just going with a different flower that I liked better. So I like that better on this card and decided that that's the one I would go with to put on the card. Here I was deciding which one. There goes my clock. That one or that one. And decided on that one. I apologize for the clock, but goes off just about every time I'm narrating. because I'm sitting in my living room and it's right over my head. So I use my lace tacky glue again to put that down. I use these these dots to, add some dots to this card and call that one done. Then I bring in the craft cards and try to decide what am I going to do on these. So I decide to, what do I decide to do? Put the bird stamp on that one. So I wanted to do a background on this card, and I have this big stamp, and I took some blue and then decided to stamp that on the card. I really like the craft color, and then I decided to go around the edges with the blue, just to kind of add a little bit around of color around the edges to make a really quick, simple background. And decided that I wanted to leave the color of the craft, and then I stamped the little bird on the card. And this is a stamp that I got recently, and I was really looking forward to using it on something. Then I got out my watercolor brush pens and decided to add a little bit of color to him, to the little bird. Add a little bit of blue, a little bit of brown for the branch, just really quickly, and then a little bit of yellow to his breast there. And then I decided to go through the ephemera pack to try to find, like, something, to put on the card with him, some flowers I thought would be pretty. So that's what I'm looking for. But I decided that, this one flower here that I pulled out to begin with would work, but I needed to cut it up. So again, I used my scissors and I decided to cut it up and put down the different pieces on the card. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm figuring out my layout with these different pieces from this piece of ephemera. I put these two flower parts down, but I don't know, it just seemed like it needed more to be added to the card. So I figure out, how I can cut up the rest of it to get that to work on the card as well. And so here I got this little piece that I thought would look cute, like behind him, like it's coming out from behind him or something that's behind him. So I put that on the card. And then the other piece I trim up, and then I put that on the bottom there to where it's, is overlapping his feet just a little bit. But I wanted to reorient it, so that's why I cut it apart, so I could get it oriented like the way that, worked for me. So that's what I'm did here. I just cut them apart and then glued them down. And I thought he turned out really cute. So I do take, some of these drops and decide to add a little bit of that to the inside of the flowers and then to some of the dots around the bird, just to kind of add a little bit of glitter and shine. And there I smeared one. Oops, almost smeared another one. So I'm trying to fix it with a paintbrush. But decided, what, I need to leave it alone because I'm going to just mess it up. So there you go, that's that one finished. So then the next one, I'm trying to figure out what am I going to do on this. I kind of wanted to use, some of these people on the card. I really liked this little girl. I thought she was cute. Thought it'd be really cute to have her, like, on there dancing with the flower. Thought that'd be adorable. And I decided to, I went through trying to figure out which flower, but decided to go with the flower that I started with. So here I got a stencil, and I wanted to do something kind of in the background that was like leaves or earthy or whatever and green. So I got this stamp pad and the stencil, and I tried to get it through the stencil, but it was getting on the stencil. But then I took my thing and I rubbed it, and it rubbed it into the inside of the stencil, so that worked really good. So even though it was only stamping on the top, I was able to use my thing to get it to go inside the stencil, and it worked out really good. So I decided to put a little bit of brown around the outside just to kind of ink it up a little bit and make it look a little, I guess, distressed or aged. And then I added the Eileen's tacky glue on the two ephemera pieces, figure out where I want them on there. So I glued the flower down, glued down the little girl, and then I decided to add some of the glitter dots to this card as well around the little girl. So I thought that was really cute, and I called that one finished. So then I'm on to the black cards. Now I love the black cards because I can use fluorescent paint, and that's exactly what I did. I decided to get out the fluorescent paint and decided to do some flowers on the card through this stencil. So at first I did it lightly because I didn't want it to like put too much and have it go underneath the stencil and then it be, like not really be just a big blob. But then I add a little bit more to the center, and I really love the way that this looked. So I wanted to try that because I wanted to put another one on the card, and I didn't want to smear it. So I did the other one. I did lightly, and then I added more towards the center, which, just really turned out great. I really like the way these looked on the card. And then hit that with the heat gun real quick to dry it, and it dried, as you saw there, really quickly. Didn't take much time at all. So then I decided to put these two little girls on here. So I used my Aleene's tacky glue again to glue that down. And it was giving me problems, so I put that aside and decide while I'm letting that like come down, I'd put some leaves using these liquid beads, and then put some dots on the page, on the card. I do end up putting a few dots. So I finally got my Aleene's tacky glue to work. It's because it's almost out and I laid it on its side that I was having a hard time, so I had to turn it upside down for a minute. So I got those on the card and then put the little dots on the card. I like to do it in 3 places. Well, I guess I did it in 4 odd numbers is what I try to do. I did it in 4, and I'm like, okay, one more place. I have to do it in a 5th place. And then the last one, I decided to use this stencil and to use a gold paint pen through the stencil. And so that's what I'm doing here. And I do end up skipping ahead because this did take a little bit of time, a lot longer than I thought it would take. And so anyway, I went through over the whole thing and just colored everything in with the gold paint pen. It would have gone a lot faster if I did like, I don't know, I guess gold paint or something. And I do actually, now that I think about it, I do have some gold acrylic paint I could have used. Oh well, I got these paint pens here recently, and I've, really been looking for reasons to use them and having fun using them. So I went over a few areas that I wanted a little bit darker, and I cleaned up some of the edges that were kind of not as clean because there was a few areas where it was kind of a little bit messed up, but I cleaned up the edges with it once I took the stencil off. So that's what I'm doing here. Which, of course, by, the time I'm done, most of it's covered up anyway. So it would have made a difference. You wouldn't have been able to tell anyway. So I just try to figure out what I want to put on this last card. So I'm just going through, deciding what do I want to do, trying to figure out what I want to put on the card. I like this, some flowers with the butterfly. I was thinking maybe the bird. Maybe it'd be cute to do a bird on one of them. But yeah, nothing was really kind of feeling right for me. Um, I can't remember what I ended up doing on this card. But I do end up, I think I went back to what I originally had on there. No, I guess not. I ended up going into my journal with stamped images and decided to use something out of it instead. So I decided I wanted to use a butterfly and a flower on this card. So I cut out the flower I want to use, cut out the butterfly. This is one that, again, I already had colored up. And then I took the time to fussy cut that out. And I wasn't sure when I was doing, cutting this out and stuff. I'm like, I don't know if this is going to fit on the card because it's kind of big and this flower is kind of big. But I'm going to at least try. So here I took out my pens and decided to color the flower with, pink. I thought that would be pretty. So I color it with the light, one shade of pink, and then I get a darker shade of pink and add some shadow in there. So that's what I'm doing here. Just to give it some contrast and variation, give a little bit of extra something. And this is the one where when I put it on the card, I realized that I missed some white spots. So here I wanted to darken the black part and then go around the edge of the butterfly because I could see the white cardstock after I cut it out, and I didn't want to be able to see that. So that's what I'm doing here, and I darken up because I didn't precisely cut out the little antennas, so I wanted to go around the antennas to darken those. And then here's where I went around the flower edges of the flower because I could see like some white spots and, that I missed, and I could see the edge of the flower. So then I used my Aleene's tacky glue to glue both of these down onto the card. And I could still see some white on the antenna, so I wanted to darken that up some more. And then I glued him down, and I tried to glue him down so that the little antenna was over like the gold part, so you could see the antennas instead of over the black part, because I knew if I put it over the black part, they would just disappear. You wouldn't be able to see them. So I put the butterfly down, I put the rose down, and I decided I wanted to use a Wink to Stella again, and so I was trying to get this going. And this is like a gold. I probably shouldn't have used this because it's got like that yellow undertone to it. But I decided to use it on the butterfly wings, and it just like, you could see here, blended too much with the background. So I tried to get some of that off because I'm like, oh no, I should have used the silver. So I went over the silver to try to lift some of that up, or, get some of that to where it's not so yellow, and that didn't seem to work. So then I tried to wipe some off with a baby wipe, and that didn't seem to work. And went over it with the gold again, just trying to, get that to be not be so gold or yellow. And then I decided, and I wonder what would happen if I went over it with the markers again that I used to color the butterfly with to begin with. So I decided to go back over the butterfly with the markers to try to bring some of that color back up, and so that's what I'm doing here. And I pull out some yellow, and then another color for the edges, which I think orange, okay, wasn't sure. So yeah, I tried to bring back some of the color of the butterfly. And then I went around the edges with this gray pen again in the gold parts just to help him stand out a little bit better. And, got to where I was okay with it. I'm like, oh, that's good enough. I mean, I'm okay with that. So then I decided to put some of these pink dots on there to add a little bit of that. So here's all the cards. Here's the first one, and then this one I decided to add some silver dots to it. To add a little bit more to that card. And then the next card, which I think is pretty, so cute. And this one I decided to add some more to it as well. Some copper dots or whatever color this is, kind of coppery color. And then the bird and the girls and then the butterfly. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.